All right, you guys, welcome to the video. It's me, Sierra, aka Sierra in the bonus, and we are here live on Twitch. Make sure you guys look in the comments in the description to check out the Twitch channel, drop a follow. Hey man, so today we got a Jubilee video, so we're gonna have a little conversation. Pull up to the chat so you can be a part of the conversations for stuff like this. I really don't know what to expect, honestly. Let me know what other videos y'all want me to react to though in the comments before we get into it, and make sure you leave a like, a comment, and subscribe for more content. So look, do all killers think the same? It's gonna be interesting. The number one thing off the bat I'm thinking is like, what is their background? Like, what did they do?
Live in this fear that he's going to actually come after me because it
Oh
already
no.
happened.
Ooh, that sounds like the domestic violence clapping back. Okay, the sound is good if we turn it up a little more. Let's do it, y'all. Let me know if it's too loud. Do all killers think the same?
Again.
I would kill them again.
Three,
Ooh, girl, we getting off with the
one, go.
tough questions already. Strongly agree, strongly disagree.
Was a beautiful person, and he was my friend. And
oh no,
what happened was an accident, and I would give anything to have him back. My name's Forrest, and I accidentally shot and killed my best friend when I was 23 years old. I felt like a shattered person most of my life, and there are still shards missing, but I just spent the last 5 years writing a very painful memoir. It gave me an opportunity to visit a lot of past trauma. I feel in a strong space to
so his was an accidental death.
A support for other survivors and create positivity in the world.
I couldn't even imagine, chat. I just accidentally killing your best friend. Chat. I don't know if I could recover from that one. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even want to think about it, chat.
My killing has been in the time of war, so I agree with what I've done.
Ooh.
Would I do it again? I would, because if I didn't kill that individual, they would have killed me or somebody else. I was a sniper, so I'm looking after.
Okay. Within the context,
I get
20,
30 guys, sometimes as small as 6 guys. But I don't strongly agree with it because of the after effects, like what it did to me mentally. I was the first person I killed, I was 18, and I didn't stop until I was almost 25. So I don't regret.
Yeah, what y'all think about that? Like, man, and all these people are free, locked me up in a mental institute. Okay, he was in the military though, and I don't know. I don't know. He didn't say if he went to jail or not, but like he said 5 years writing a memoir. I don't know if he did that in jail or out, or what his thing was. He probably didn't go to jail because they kill people all the time in the military. But what y'all think about that?
Any of it. I don't have any.
It's such a sensitive topic. Anyone that I know that's been a veteran, I just don't talk about it with them because I don't want to be disrespectful or trigger them or whatever. But I am genuinely curious, like some of the experiences of people who have done that, because a lot of times it's because people need to support their family. But yeah, so that's the thing where it's like, like people are being pushed to do this because of like usually out of like economic circumstances. Like it's well known that a lot of military recruiters go to like poor or urban areas and do heavy recruiting there, and a lot of times going to the military is just the better option for multiple reasons versus a lot of these areas in the country that just don't have a lot of opportunity for work. And that's what the case was with at least half of my family on my mom's side. A lot of them, almost all of my aunts and uncles were in the military in one of the branches. And like looking at what my hometown in Mississippi was like, as I got older, I was like, okay, I kind of get why people went out, because it's like, unless you did that, you probably weren't making it out. And it's like, when people are making choices like that to not only support themselves but their family, and then they got to deal with all this other stuff that is kind of tough, like, to process, it just puts them in a different space. And then it's like, they've seen a different part of life after being there, especially if they were like on the front lines or in combat. So it's kind of tough, man. Activist Prism said, yeah, that's tough. I had a friend start doing hard drugs and commit suicide because of this. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Rest in peace. That is a very like common thing, unfortunately, with veterans. And I feel like the issue isn't addressed anywhere near as much, because like, it's a part of the system. They have to make these people like machines, like war machines. And that has to just completely change the way that your brain like works, or the way you perceive things. So I can only imagine, and I wish there was more support for veterans because of things like that. And you know, even in my life, aside from that, like the change in like some people's personalities when they come back, like, can be difficult to deal with, or people that are around them, like family. So it's a lot of layers to it.
Feelings towards those individuals that I did kill, they were just protecting their homeland just as much as I would too. So I would do it again to save my life.
And that protecting the homeland stuff, that I don't do all that. That's a little too watered down for me in how they explain war to people in this country. It's not just protecting homeland, it's expanding homeland, which is imperialism, which means we're going into other people's countries as the US perspective, overthrowing their governments, staging coups, you know, supporting terrorists to cause chaos and also make money from weaponry and other things like that. There's business interests as well, why the US government will completely not just protect our freedom, but take away other people's freedom and kind of create a system that's similar to what we have here. So that's kind of the issue with my perspective. Just in terms of this, it's just a little bit different than the way that I was taught. Oh, people are in the military fighting for your freedom. No, it's a whole military industrial complex. It's not about fighting for freedom. It's about power. It's about controlling territory. It's about economics. It's about technology. It's about, you know, making money, like in not just for our government, but also for businesses from the United States and other big, you know, countries. Same for them too, like Russia, China, you know, some of the big countries in Europe, European Union, like they all have vested interests in other things aside from just protecting their country. Because of course, if you're doing stuff in multiple countries around the world, like overthrowing governments, causing chaos, you know, inciting violence, you got undercover people in other governments and militaries, like, of course you're gonna get some retaliation from groups in whatever region of the world they're in, which, as for the US military, they're everywhere pretty much. So it's like, of course we're gonna get retaliation and groups rising up and protecting their own stuff. Like, we're really going to other people's countries telling them how to do stuff, and like, oh, we don't like this economic system you got going on, we don't like these traditional values you have going on, we can't really make money or have influence like that, so we're just gonna use to change like the entire trajectory of like your country right quick and just give y'all a little dash of capitalism and a little dash of nepotism. So, you know, it's just kind of crazy. Like a big example that I gave recently was like Japan before the war, whichever war it was, y'all let me know, World War II, 1, 2, I don't remember which one, but whichever one where we dropped the atomic bomb, which, by the way, chat, why is everybody obsessing over this Oppenheimer movie? Oppenheimer, was he the guy that made the atomic bomb that they dropped on Japan? It's weird. Like, people are so excited about a movie about an atomic bomb or nuclear bomb, whichever one it was, that we dropped on a whole, like, island country. You know, that's still crazy that that even happened. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's the only atomic bomb that's ever been dropped. Anyone on YouTube, fact check me, please. Let me know in the comments. But I think that's the only one that's been dropped. And we dropped that on Japan and basically, like, destroyed their country or some of their main cities. And basically, the United States wiggled their way into Japan's government and influence like certain companies and different things that will be going on over there. So obviously it's a strategic location as well, because they don't want China to have complete control over the world. So if the US is allies with Japan, then they will have a little bit more of a stronghold. So it's like the US got Japan and they got South Korea on their side, but these were caused by conflicts where soldiers are quote unquote fighting for our freedom. So it's like, that's where the disconnect is for me. It's like fighting for freedom or doing whatever the hell we want and like trying to make as much money as possible and take over as many territories as possible. You know, it's like, which one is it? I'm leaning the imperialism route. We're basically collecting colonies, or like, say for example, Puerto Rico's damn near a colony. It's not even a state. It's not even they don't even have the same like structure with or rights to vote and different stuff like that. Like, it's crazy over there. So the US is real sneaky with how they promote the propaganda, and it starts at a young age because we start getting taught this early in school. So it's so funny seeing all these people on like these political parties saying, oh, they're trying to indoctrinate our kids with this, they're trying to indoctrinate our kids with that early in school, influencing them. Oh, they're talking about race too much, they're talking about LGBTQIA plus too much. That's the narratives that I hear from a lot of these political talking heads. And it's like, if anything, people are being indoctrinated with stuff like imperialism, with the patriotism, like making us stand up and say like a national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance every day. Like, that's really kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, we literally had to like look at the flag. We had to look at the flag and like have our hand over our chest and say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. You're telling me that's not indoctrination? Like, let's be serious here. But then it's like they program that shit in your head early, like, oh yes, like, I'm not saying you should disrespect veterans, you shouldn't. They're a victim. They're usually, mostly, except the crazy ones, are victims of the society and the economy that we have, where some people don't have a better choice for work or for a future than to go to the military, you know? So it's tough. But aside from the veterans, like, just looking at what it represents, you're being told that you dropping bombs, your country and your military dropping bombs and doing drone strikes and like, you know, just, you know, killing people on the street, like all types of stuff. You're telling them that all of this is justified because they're fighting for your freedom, right? And you're telling kids from an early age. So no surprise when they get older, they're still gonna like keep some of these same values. And for me, it's just like, absolutely not. When you actually look at what is going on, it's not no fighting for freedom. It's us maybe like defending our country in certain territories that we're trying to take over or influence. And yeah, maybe they prevent terrorist attacks too, right? But why are we getting terrorized? Because we're terrorizing other people. That's why niggas want to, you know, kidnap Americans here and there. Like, we messing up people's cultures in their countries and destroying their economies and putting fucking trade embargoes on them and like inflating the fuck out of their cash by placing sanctions on them. So we're actually hurting people like in more ways than just physically, because like when countries don't do something, they do something the US doesn't like, guess what we do? Decide to put sanctions on them and kind of cut them off financially, because not only is that between us and them trading, it's between us, them, and the US allies, you know, all together. So it's kind of crazy. Once I actually learned stuff like on my own a little more, I was like, wow, like they really had us like tricked. But I'm glad that I see it for what it is. And I'm happy to see that there are some veterans who are speaking out about just how unjust a lot of the stuff is that they were doing. And I think even somebody is like has been trying to run away from the US government because he released files about some of the shit that our government or our military did overseas. And like I think it was like classified, but his company hacked into like the database or something. If y'all have ever heard someone named like Chelsea Gray, let me know in the comments if I'm tripping. But if y'all ever hear anything about that, y'all let me know. What's the other guy's name? He's like a hacker, bro. They had his name all in the TV when Trump was president. But look, it's gonna come to me. But it was two people that had got, I think Chelsea Gray or whatever their name was. I might have the last name. It's not Chelsea Gray. It's definitely not. But I think the first name is Chelsea. That one is in jail, and the other one was like trying to run away from the US government, I believe. So, oh my God, the fact that I can't remember his name is killing me. But anyway, moral of the story is some of the US government / military's atrocities overseas were exposed some years ago, and it actually could potentially affect journalism the way that this court case gets ruled on, because I think they're charging the guy with treason or something, but that could really impact journalism, because whatever decision is going to set a precedent for how journalists can break like information, you know. So say if they get like some information about something from a whistleblower, potential things that we might get notified about. Say for example, the one example is like Edward Snowden in 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. He exposed the NSA for like spying on all of us, basically, or explaining that there was a system where they could literally spy on everything, anyone like in the world. And he explained how they do it, and like they basically, I think they're trying to get him for treason too. They want to bring him back to the United States to bring him to trial and put him in jail. And we know what usually happens to those type of people. They usually get, you know, packed up. So he, I think, fled to Russia. So this is a recurring thing where like stuff gets exposed and then the people get threatened. So I don't know, but it's crazy. People call him a traitor. I'm like, how is he a traitor? Like, I get what they're saying, blah blah, national security, but at the end of the day, it helps us citizens, because the government oversteps a lot of their regulations or rules when it's time for them to do like an investigation or take someone down. They do it without going a legal route. So like, I think literally I was reading his book and he was saying like he got access to the system where you could like look for anybody in the world and like spy through their devices and stuff. And he said the moment that he realized how wrong it was when he like was looking up this person and he like got into his laptop. The guy on the other end, he got into his laptop and he was holding his baby on his lap and just like on the computer. But he said it just felt so wrong how he was able to look through this system and look into somebody else's life without them even knowing. Even though he worked for the government, he realized, like, he felt like he owed it to us as Americans to tell us what the government was doing over being loyal and being quiet about it like everybody else. So now he's kind of just pretty much wanted. You know, I do feel like if the US government really did want to, like, kidnap him from Russia and bring him back or pack him up, they could. But I think they want to bring him back and have a trial to make a point and set a precedent. But I don't think he's coming back. I don't, unless they, like, somehow trick him into coming to the US or, like, kidnap him or some shit, he's not coming back. So he's probably gonna stay in Russia.
For somebody else's life.
I work in healthcare. What I do is I manage life support. So I'm the guy that pulls the plug on just about everybody. So I come from a very different perspective. I have to do that for babies all the way to, like, people at the end of their lives. I've been doing this for like over a dozen years now. So I'm like, okay, I've come to terms with what the job is. So, yeah.
The crime and how it happened, it was not, I didn't go out to kill this person. And now.
So I would kill them again is the topic. So he says strongly disagree.
Understanding the impact that the crime had, not only on me, but the family of that person. That was a human being that I killed over some drugs, right? And his children, his family is living still in the absence of this person. It was December the 24th, Christmas Eve night. I remember me and a couple of my friends were hanging out. This particular car came up, and the passenger in the car said, hey, I want to buy some drugs from you. So I told one of my friends, I'm like, he's known to be this person that will come through the community and ask for $100 worth of drugs, but he never has the money. And the guy did exactly what I said. He knocked the drugs out of my friend's hand, grabbed his arm, and started speeding off. And my reaction at that time was I pulled out the gun and I started shooting into the car to get him to release my friend. And days later, we heard that the bullet that I shot into the car actually killed him. To that day, I will never forget December the 24th, when that happened, the day before Christmas.
Damn. That's crazy. I mean, I guess if you really out there getting active, that's the type of stuff that can happen. That's unfortunate, though.
I would 100% do what I had to do over again because the guy was a serial perpetrator. He was after so many women. If he killed me, he would have went after my mom, all my family, my nieces, my nephews, every one of us, until he literally got what he wanted. I'm Tara Newell. I killed my attacker, Dirty John Meehan, in self-defense. I think it was really interesting there was one person here who had experienced prison reform, because to me, my attacker would have been in there if I hadn't killed him in self-defense. And it's really interesting to hear about how there are people in there who are able to rehabilitate.
I immediately regretted it.
Dang, I wanted to hear more.
3, 2, 1, go.
The title was a little strange at first, but served its purpose. Didn't expect these stories. Yeah, me neither. Not quite as in depth, but I like it so far.
I strongly disagree.
Yeah.
Like
okay, so the next topic was I immediately regretted it.
But I was a young kid. I was 18. The first guy I killed was with a 50 cal like machine gun. I was expecting it to be
50 cal. Damn.
Be like the movies where you have this like feeling of when you kill someone. And it wasn't there. I didn't really feel anything. It wasn't until like that night I had this weird dream. The guy who I shot became a ceiling fan in my room. His arms and legs were the blades. His head was the center of the fan. And I watched him spin faster and faster. And
that's crazy.
Until he
I'm on the TV,
tore apart and covered me in what he used to be. What was left of him. But no, I didn't feel anything. There was nothing like to feel. I knew that was the beginning of something that I was probably going to have to do for a while. No attachment at the time.
I can agree with you on that. I mean, identify with that, because my first couple of years inside of prison, I detached from it completely. When people would mention his name, I would don't see him as a human being. And that was very insensitive when I look back at it now, right? But I look and say that was a way of me coping with the situation at that time.
I did immediately regret it in a
makes sense.
where I called my mom.
I would be interested to hear like what was his process after that, like getting more in depth with how he decided to confront it or what changed for him to be more empathetic. That's what I would be curious about.
And I apologized to her and I said, I'm so sorry, I think I killed your husband. So there was that, but then there was also the sense of like, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep looking over my shoulders anymore. I don't have to live in this fear that he's gonna actually come after me because it already happened.
So what did he do?
Sometimes family members don't agree with the decision, and that decision is sometimes taken away from them. Being called every name in the book as I'm walking in there, but if they just don't agree, and then I'm like, I just have to go do this now, you know? But it doesn't feel good, or like I'm not necessarily agreeing with it. So
wait, like, this guy, his profession was something in the medical field, right?
I disagree, yeah.
The level of heartbreak that I felt immediately after that gunshot was indescribable. And
oh, this is the guy who's his best friend. He accidentally killed his best friend. Oh no.
I don't know if.
I feel bad. He looks like he's like kind of triggered, reminiscing a little bit.
Any of you have saw Red before, but I actually saw Red. And it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen, experienced, witnessed, felt in my life. I got charged with first-degree murder that night, and I was looking at doing 35 to life here in California. I couldn't even process that. There was just so much a combination of horror and grief immediately.
Okay, did he say how he accidentally killed his best friend? He said it was a gun, I think.
I am desensitized to death. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, this
go.
is an interesting one. Interesting.
Why is
Interesting.
that?
It's definitely not the order I thought it would have gone.
Yeah, why is that?
I do a lot of volunteer work, and the amount of people who are dying from drug overdoses and suicides right now in the arena of trauma, it's becoming difficult for me to feel anything anymore with the amount of people that we're losing that we don't have to.
For me, it was almost like playing God.
I get what he's saying.
I determined the time, place, when I'm gonna take that person off this planet. And it put things into perspective for me too, that I could be going at any certain time. Like when you have to pull it, you know, you don't know when that card is gonna be pulled. So I've learned to value it more and know that it's very fragile, very frail. And to not feel anything towards killing someone would probably be more devastating to me than actually taking the life, is not feeling.
Hold on, I need to clarify
I respect
something.
that.
Yeah.
I just want to be very clear that being desensitized in no way means that I don't value life.
Oh, yeah.
It's just difficult to
manage the
feel the mourning over and
more
over again.
over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I agree with you. Like there'll be certain stories that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. But if someone just tells me like, oh, that person died of a heart attack, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like it just like there's no traumatic incident with that. So I'm like, my brain just disassociates and it's like, okay, oh, they died naturally, so.
And from where I come from, like I get to know a lot of these people. If I don't get to know them, I
What y'all think about that, chat?
get to know their family members like very intimately. It's not immediate, like, oh, they're coming in and they're gonna go. No, it's like weeks, months. I've had somebody like their 5-year-old son, and he was in the room, and I'm like, I gotta take your mom away now. And it's like after that, I'm like, oh my God, I'll go call my mom or I'll go call my dad. It's like it's really heavy, but I feel like you said, like a sense of maximization of like. I don't know when my number is going to be called, because even if I'm working in the emergency room, we've worked on somebody for 2 hours and they're like, we really can't do anything anymore. And I'm like, just like that, gone. I remember this one patient.
Good,
Very
indecisive.
much like nobody was
How
there.
you doing for him?
They just found him on the street. He didn't even have a wallet. He was clinically dead, brain-wise, so we couldn't really do anything anymore.
Oh,
Me,
that's
the
what it's called, respiratory therapist.
nurse and the doctor just stayed in that room until his heart.
I work in a hospital. I can understand both sides of this. What you playing? Indecisive? I could only imagine, you know, activist prism. Like, I only had one experience with something like that. So I could only imagine what it's like being around, like, all the time. So, like, I was at the hospital when they decided to take my grandma off of the whatever machine she was on. And that was like just crazy to like process, where it's like, wow, like they're really gonna just turn this thing off and then that's it. And like going through that process of them waiting and trying to make a decision. So I can only imagine what it's like to be this guy where you gotta actually like pull the plug. So I definitely empathize with that and anyone that has to be around that, because I don't know, man, like it's just crazy. It's just a different perspective in life. He said it's a grind worse than 2K. Something worse than 2K is pretty damn bad.
He left because we didn't want to see him
we gotta play a game together.
Be by himself. That was one of the most.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad. I mean, in a way, I was somewhat at peace because she was going through a really hard time, like at that point the last few months. So I was like, you know, at least she won't have to suffer and deal with all this shit anymore. But yeah, the process was like really shocking, honestly. But at some point, like, we all got to go through it. But it's not fun though, because that was the first person that I actually knew, like for real, that passed away. Like I had people in family, but I didn't like grow up with them. I didn't really know them, so it was kind of like I knew what going through the motions was like, but I never experienced something like that. So I gotta find one. I don't know a lot of fun games. Wait, what you got? Xbox? Oh God, don't say Xbox, please.
He left
Don't
because we didn't
Xbox.
want to see him leave by himself. That was one of the most what's it called, sobering moments too. It's like, as much as it was nice for us to do that, I just don't want strangers around me, you know, seeing me off.
I think for me as a teenager, selling drugs, just hanging in the streets, just living a lifestyle that I didn't care if I killed someone. I was very desensitized. I didn't care. I didn't feel no remorse for it. And this is part of my own personal development. I needed to find a way to attach to that. So I started doing this hospice training inside of one of the prisons. And by listening to these individuals tell their story and the regrets that they were living with in their process of transitioning, it gave me a sense of a value of life now, you know, and it shifted my mindset as this teenager who was very callous towards life at that time.
I've taken care of people, they're being on life support. They'll hang on for like a very long time till one specific person sometimes just visits them. And then I'm like, I can't explain that. I could take them off and their heart rate will keep going and going and going.
One of the guys I was working with in the prison, he wanted to see his sister. Yes. So this dude held on until like his sister walked into the room and he was like not consciously, but like she spoke to him and she started like talking to him and you started seeing him move. And then soon as she was like, I'm leaving. And like within minutes, this guy like transitioned.
Yeah, with my situation, I made him brain dead. And so he was in the hospital. And then when they pulled the plug on him, my mom literally had to tell him it's okay to go now. And then he left.
Wow.
There's some weird things about that.
Yeah.
Damn, bro.
Yeah.
I think we're more than just our brain, right?
Yeah.
We're spirits living in flesh, man. Yeah. That's all.
Facts.
I am also a victim. 3, 2, 1, go.
What do they mean by that?
I feel weird.
We're not trying to single you out, right?
But I feel like I have to be over here because The guy came after me. I was in a parking garage. I was just trying to go to the Jason Aldean concert that night. He started attacking me, stabbing me, and I fought back and I won. So I didn't ask for any of that. I honestly hated the guy and I wished he would be dead, but I never wanted to unalive or take someone's life.
My first couple years in prison, I saw myself as the victim, right? And that was, again, a way of me coping. As I continued to do some interpersonal work, I realized that I was not a victim, that I still made a choice in the crime that I committed, right? But I just wanted to share that. Like I wanted to run over there, but I'm in this place of healing and reconciliation, and I had to like move away from the victimization mindset and take ownership for the decision that I actually pulled the trigger, committed the crime, unfortunately, and someone died, and I have to take that on because that's part of my own personal growth and development. I remember on a Friday night, 3 years into my incarceration, I remember laying in my bed watching this show called Dateline, and for the first time, I heard a mother—
That's that news show, right?
Really expressing her loss for the loss of her loved one, and that was that moment in my life where I connected with that. I'm like, yo, I did the same thing, and I went into a fetus position and I started praying, and all I kept hearing hearing this voice saying, I have forgiven you. You have to ask Gary, the guy that you killed, to forgive you. And in that process, this is where I began. I remember saying, Gary, would you forgive me? And I literally felt like in that moment, he forgave me, and I heard it. And it's almost like a weight was lifted off of me. And that's when I began this cleansing, this process of healing and moving forward and finding a purpose and finding my voice and all of that particular night inside of that prison when I surrendered to it.
I don't feel
okay, now that's what I was wanting to hear. I was curious earlier, like, what was his journey to get in there where he feels like he was comfortable shifting his mindset, because he said for a minute like he just felt the same way. So I guess it was that Dateline thing. Is that show even still on? It might still be on.
I'm a victim for anything. Like, I chose that path. Started off wanting to be a Navy SEAL when I was like in elementary school. My mom helped me make my first ghillie suit when I was in the 6th grade.
Okay, see, that's not his fault. They brainwashed him just like the rest of us.
Like, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I knew it came with that, which was more than likely having to kill someone, especially in the time of war.
Yeah, I'm not a victim, but the only thing I would say is like they don't really prepare us into doing the job that we do. They do the day-to-day thing. Oh, this is what you do, this is what you try, and all that stuff.
Oh wait, they both do this. Yeah, he did say he worked with like trauma victims and people, and somewhat with the opioid crisis, like help something. So I don't know if he does the same job, but he's around like those type of things too. So that's why he's saying we.
And then now you're like, oh, by the way, the doctor wrote the order. Go take him off, and now I gotta walk in, or like if it's a baby, they're still holding them in their hands and stuff, and like go take them off. And so I never really thought about it. Like nobody's like talked to me or anything. Like, by the way, this is where you're gonna feel afterwards, or like when you get home after you clock out and everything like that.
Yeah, we didn't have a handbook on that either. Like, yeah, they teach you how to kill, but there's no
how to process
it.
I have profited from the murder. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, yeah, he was in the military.
Make me feel bad about this.
Damn.
Something called murder.
Oh, yeah, because he wears.
That word's kind of
strong.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Profited, like, yeah.
Why don't you like that word? I don't like it
All
either.
right, I don't think it applies universally.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely,
Homicide is a universal term. As far as profiting from any part of my story, no. I've spent the last 5 years struggling to write and publish a book, and I've spent about 80 G's on it, and
80
made about
G's,
4,000.
God damn. What kind of money he got?
Publish a book, and I've spent about 80 G's on it, and made about 4,000.
Just a casual flex.
And that's not why
Casual.
I did it. I did it because I want to help people, but I don't think that it's very common for people to profit off of recovery from stuff, right? Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
I guess I'll go over here then. My attacker, my show got made into a podcast called Dirty John, and then it got made into a documentary, a TV show on.
Bro, yes. I swear I heard Dirty John before. I was like, bro, I swear I remember watching like a Lifetime movie or like something where the main character like killed her abuser and they took her to jail. I don't know if this is her, but I was like, nah, maybe like I'm just thinking of somebody else, but it might be her. Cause I remember that name like John or like something like that. So I wonder if that's her. I'm gonna look it up.
Bravo and now on Netflix. And so
damn,
I felt like I've been exploited in a sense
because
wow. I did not make anything off of the podcast.
What?
Although people think I profited off my story, I did not.
But
what the hell? Okay, she said the podcast, but what about the other stuff though?
Also, and you get paid to take his life?
No, not at all.
Okay, so if you profited off of if I profit off of anything, it's my hard work afterwards.
Yeah.
It's my hard work to share and be of service. So no, you didn't. People hate profit sometimes. They just hate you just because you made money.
Yeah.
For me, as a speaker and a trainer, I struggled with that for a long time, right? You know, I committed this crime, and yes, I did all of the work that I have done to become the man that I am today. But then I don't sleep at night, right, knowing that I've made this bag of money or whatever. Any money I get, I want to be able to live comfortable. It's not about getting something in luxury. How could I help some young person? So we do the nonprofit work. But my 5-year goal now, or 10-year goal, is whatever profit I make is to create a foundation in honor of Gary. Going back to that promise I made to him almost 30 years ago inside of a prison cell.
It initially started as me writing a journal. My dad suggested I did that. I was going through a hard time, self-medicating and contemplating some bad decisions. Started off as that, and it got picked up by a major book publishing company, and it went on to become essentially like an autobiography of that time in. After accomplishing that, I went on to what I do currently, which is write, novels and stuff like that. Not based on my life, because I did feel a certain way about it, of profiting from killing, I get what you're saying too. All the work that you put in there after, that's on you, but I also see it as, well, I killed all these guys and I wrote a book about it and profited from it.
Were you an E4 or E5?
E5, yeah.
That's all the money you made off it, right? Once again, complex issue that gets lumped together. If somebody has money, they must be doing something for profit.
Yeah.
And I think where an answer is, do we follow purpose or do we follow the money? Mm-hmm. It's gonna go away when I die. It's not gonna matter.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. Like he said, are we gonna follow purpose or follow the money? I think that's a thing that like at some point most people have to confront and figure out where they lie on that being of value to them, because I think our society pushes us to focus on money first. And obviously money has a really big impact on your lifestyle, right? But like, what amount is enough? If that's your goal, like, what is the end game? Like, where are you trying to get to? Because I feel like a lot of things contribute to people feeling like they need to be super rich or be like a millionaire. Money helps. Money plays a significant part in like a lot of things: education, health, mental health, physical health. It affects a lot. So up to a certain point, it can make a significant difference in your life. And I believe the amount that a study said was around 150,000. So once you get to up like around 150,000, it's like if there was a chart, the line in terms of your quality of life is like going up until about 150K. And then even if the amount you make goes up, it kind of plateaus in terms of like your quality of life. So once you hit that level, your life doesn't significantly get better after that point. And then what they've actually seen in the studies also was that at a certain point, it starts to actually get worse. Your quality of life starts to get worse the more money you make. And you know, it's funny, like, we all know the saying, more money, more problems. So I think for a lot of us, especially like us minorities, like Black people, we have a lot of reasons to focus on money over passion, because choosing your passion to an extent can be a luxury, especially that a lot of people can afford when they're financially disadvantaged on multiple levels. So it's like, damn, it's not even that people just are so money hungry, it's that a lot of people are supporting not only themselves but other family members too. So it's like that, I think someone called it like the black tax, where it's like, not only you gotta, if you get up, are you gonna take care of yourself, you're probably gonna be taking care of somebody else in your family or multiple households. We see it all the time. Dudes get drafted to the league. Oh, I bought my mom a house. Dudes, you know, do any other like thing. Oh, first thing they do, buy their mom a house. That's not something a lot of other cultures have to do. Like, it's like I said, it's minorities for the most part, and then Black people especially too. I think we see a lot of similarities between Black and Latino. Activist Prism said, more money, more problems is so real. It is. And I still have yet to reach my peak, like, amount of money that I make in my life, but I've seen it. I've seen it myself, to where it's like, okay, I can confirm that that is legit based on the little experience I have and seeing other people that have strived to get more and more and more money. I realize, like, they be like less and less happy, and like, because they're always focused on the more money. But that's why I think it's important to have like a balance of, to have a balance between working and like climbing the ladder financially, but also doing something that you like or that you're passionate about on the side, or fit it in. You know, maybe you make enough at a certain point to work part-time and then do whatever else. You know, I feel like a lot of people get caught up trying to get accolades and get to a higher number, that they don't leave enough room for them to have things that they're passionate about outside of that. So when things don't go well with the job, or, you know, circumstances change, it can be overwhelming to deal with when you haven't invested your time in yourself outside of this thing that gives you money. So it's kind of crazy, you would think, but like I said, the studies show, like, on your way climbing up to 150K a year, your quality of life is gonna get better. So I'm like, okay, I see, based on these studies, I need to aim to make 150K a year. You know, maybe more, maybe less, but I'm like, okay, I got a number to aim for now, you know, to where I could be comfortable and maybe have like some flexibility. And the other thing, people be having kids, like, that just makes stuff even more expensive, especially these days in this economy. Yeah, I don't think so. I'll be the aunt. I'll keep playing my auntie role.
It's gonna go away when I die. It's not gonna matter.
Yeah.
What's gonna matter when I die is what I did.
Exactly.
Am I proud of myself for
Yeah.
the things that I did?
I often see money more of like as an amplifier for what people can do, what reach they can do.
Yeah, what you can make impact on now, like knowing, like, when I go speak to young people today about gun violence and about my story, the only way they can get out of a situation is if I have money.
Yeah.
Right? That I can create a safe space for them to go after school. So I have to make some money to be able to do that, you know what I mean? But I don't want to make a bunch of money and I'm living here and then I'm walking into the community and say, hey, young kids, put the guns down, prison, say no to prison, and then I drive away in this nice car and forget about them, right? So that's where I'm at. Like, purpose for me is about how do I make impact in the lives of the people that I serve.
Taking a life.
I feel that. I agree.
Life was part of God's plan for me.
Oh, God's plan. God's plan is crazy.
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm unclear with that one. That's why I'm like this.
You're on the other side.
Yeah, I wouldn't be who I am today to be able to have the experience that I've had and become who I've become without taking a life. I learned my lesson after all the killing. You know, my last deployment dropped over 30 guys, 33 people, and who knows how many before that.
33.
But what I had to get through and overcome to stand here today far exceeded anything I've done in the military. Being emotionally somewhat strong and yeah, what I've had to overcome. There's been
And that was just his last deployment.
a lot of dark nights where didn't think I was gonna be here, you know?
Why I'm like this?
Yeah, I know what you mean though, yeah.
I don't want it to be perceived to be insensitive about the victim.
Yeah.
Right? But I know on this part of me, I look at my friends who I grew up with at 19 years old, and I did 22 years in prison, and when I came back home, they were at the same spot under the same tree we sold drugs at. But then if over here, I think about the Gold Dingers family, because you know their son is like, oh, God destined my brother or my son to die. You know what I mean? So.
But if you believe in God, then that would be, he already knew that before you
I
were
get
born,
that part.
you know?
I mean, I'm a spiritual man.
But that don't mean he gonna take that position though.
Right?
Yeah,
but I'm
same.
just like,
It still looks crazy.
it's just, that's my dilemma when it
If
comes
there's
to.
a God, I don't think that he's letting some kid be blown apart in Iraq because he's busy helping me look for a parking space, right? I don't think that the realm of the spirit is as concerned with human affairs. I think that the sun rises and sets for a reason. It rockets through space at 40,000 miles an hour with a bunch of rocks around it for a reason, and animals have instinct for a reason, and I think human beings,
Free will.
it's a little
Free
different.
will.
Free
And I
will.
think things just happen sometimes. There doesn't have to be meaning or a plan.
But then it's hard for a person
can
who
respect it.
lost a loved one to wrap that. For me, my homicide is completely different than most of you in this room. Is someone died by me pulling this trigger, and I can't say it was in God's plan.
I pulled the trigger too, and I
Yeah.
thought the gun was empty. And I still can't wrap my head.
He thought the gun was empty and shot it at his best friend. Oh my God. How old did he say he was? I can't remember. Is he a teenager?
Around a stupid decision like that. Even though that it malfunctioned and acted unloaded, had I done all the right things, the 4 safety rules, it never would have happened. And I was nervous coming here because I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. And I had no intent at all. There's no way I would have as soon put it to my head or at the floor or whatever. And I can't remember ever doing that before or after. And it was a mistake.
I think for me, it was part of my dharma. I'm a little bit more spiritual, so I think it was my
Dharma,
life's
girl. Where you learn that at, Tara?
purpose,
Where you learn about some Dharma, girl?
to be honest. Because of what I do
That's
today,
funny.
whenever I speak, I always have people contact me and say that they left an abusive relationship or what I shared helped them get out of their attack.
Sharing your story helps other people and
Yeah.
you feel that,
I call it transparency transports people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like really honest about who I am, because there's someone else, not just in a physical prison, but an emotional, mental prison. And by hearing your story, hearing all of our stories, it helps transport them to another space of showing that I can't escape this particular prison.
After having this discussion,
That's legit. He's spitting. I definitely think that's true in more than just this scenario. Like, I've definitely had moments where I've encountered people that I realize are maybe in like a mental or emotional prison of their own, and like just kind of have to accept that. And I've had moments where me sharing my story allows somebody else to open up themselves, or vice versa. So he's spot on with that.
Lester, choose a side.
Oh, he got to choose a side?
Really?
Can't make you.
I'm just gonna say, I don't think it's fair to make you choose a side. You believe what you believe.
I'm gonna stand just a little bit over there.
Facts.
Please. Like, respectful.
I really like what you did, man. because we move in seconds and inches.
Yeah.
We measure progress in like
I'm
miles
right
and
here.
years, you know?
That was kind of a lot.
What's up?
This episode was just sort of intense, and I think I need a little time to debrief now.
This is new.
Life's got you down bad, huh?
Yeah, just a little, you know,
Down
sometimes
bad
I need...
is crazy. They just transition into, ooh. Y'all see how we just dodged this ad like that? Come on, man. #1 ad defense in the world.
There are enough resources for me to heal. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised old dudes strongly disagree. Like I said, they do not have enough resources for veterans. Like, not at all.
When I was in the military, it was like looked down upon to go seek mental help or anything. You'd get kicked off the team, you know.
Really? Kicked off the team?
Heartbeat. I don't want a guy who's soft watching my back, you know, or what I perceived at the time to be soft. After each deployment, our therapist was like a 18-wheeler truck full of kegs of beer and more beer. And 12 hours ago, I just took a life, 21 years old, at a strip club in Atlanta, drinking, you know, till my eyes pop out to cope. We would talk to like a psychiatrist, but we were encouraged to
not say
write
everything.
down, you know, I didn't have this emotion, I didn't see this, so we could get home early to see our family. But 2 or 3 years ago, I decided to actually talk to someone and figure out why I was the way I was, because I wanted to change. I didn't like being, everywhere I went, you know, I'm looking at everyone and it's gonna sound so bad, but I was polite to everybody who I met, but I always in the back of my mind had a plan to kill them, just in case the situation presented itself.
Girl, not she. I know she don't mean to be laughing like this, you know, but it's kind of crazy to see somebody laugh while he's saying this.
Plan to kill them, just in case the situation presented itself. If something went south, I've already mapped out and planned for 3 different scenarios how I would kill this person. And I was comfortable being in that state of mind because it kept that protection, you know, that wall up. But it gets tiring after a while to always be that way.
Right.
You know, I look at this, right? I want to run over here to the strongly disagree. It's almost because of the length of your sentence, and you, like I was serving life, I didn't become eligible for most of the classes in prison until I came down to my last 3 years in prison, right? Now I have to run back over here to strongly agree. After being a person who's been released from prison, I've learned these different things that now help me to cope with all of the stuff that comes with me living inside of a prison, not only being a person who took someone's life, but seeing other individuals get killed inside of the prison. Right, you see people get stabbed in prison over some of the simplest things. No one would come and talk to you about, like, was that triggering for you? How did you saw this person blood spill out over the concrete? Nothing, right? This is why I challenge the prison system and anyone who works in that prison environment to create more mental health services for those in prison, because yes, that person may have committed a violent crime, but we don't know their story.
I'm like that with the military.
Right.
There's not enough, in my opinion. It's not encouraged enough,
The VA helped me somewhat, right? I'm not going to say the VA didn't help. But when I was suicidal, I didn't call the VA helpline because I didn't want to sit here and fill out a strongly agree and disagree form and wait in a waiting room. And I called another brother, and he sent me to a program called Save a Warrior, and I experienced something, it might sound weird, called initiation there. The participant faces their own death, and they receive a transitional object. And something about that changed my psyche, and something clicked. And we did stuff like the ceremony for the dead there, where we write the names of the people we've lost and the people we've killed, and we get to cry and like feel and process and become human again, because war can break us, and prison can break us and make us incomplete and not human. And when we use different modalities to place that humanity back together, then we can have community. right? And community is the antidote to a lot of human suffering.
Yes, sir.
I wrote a 12-step program for vets and first responders called SPARTA, Suicide Prevention and Resilience Training Anonymous. We meet once a week. And I used to think there wasn't enough resources, and the more I get involved, it's not that the help isn't needed, it's that there's abundant ability to create resources, right? And once we break that, we start to be the creator of it, we create the small nonprofit that serves the area. It's like the Matrix fails, you know?
Yeah.
That was long, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Well, I have to apologize for like
Nah, he's just passionate about it.
chuckling when you said that part, because I was like, oh wait, I have a plan to kill people too, unfortunately. And then I used humor as my trauma response sometimes. So
Okay, because that's what I was wondering. Hey, Dark Magician Girl, how are you, love?
I strongly agree that I have the resources and the tools I need, because I'm gonna forever be on my healing journey, and I'm always gonna look for them and find them. However, talk therapy, I don't think is very beneficial to a lot of people. I think that a lot of therapists need to learn about the nervous system, because a lot of what we went through, we had to use our fight response. So I had to learn how to calm my nervous system to get to homeostasis, to the baseline.
It's like as a person of color, it's like growing up, like as an immigrant, it's more like it is what it is. When you like things happen to you, it's like you don't really like, oh yeah, go see your therapist or anything like that. Especially working through the pandemic, I have never seen like that much death. In my whole life, and I've been doing this for, at the time, like 10 years. And this was before the vaccine, and I'm like, I don't see the end of this tunnel yet. For me to quit the job would mean other people would die. And for me to continue this job, meaning I would die. And then that was the first time I'm like, I really don't know what to do right here. And that's the first time I'm like, wait, there's this thing called therapist. Maybe I should go talk to one. I wish it was more readily available and accepted at the same time, because none of my friends go and see their therapist, and I can completely tell them, like, you wouldn't have certain amount of issues if you just kind of worked on yourself in a different way. Or maybe not therapist, but like a different way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like coaching.
It's like right here too, again, I want to run over here, right? Went in prison at 19, walked out, I was 41, into a completely different world, right?
Wow.
So now, like my organization, Path to Redemption, is that I want to provide that service. Like how do you cope with when you walk into a grocery store after 20 years and you walk in the self-serving line, you got to swipe that card and you don't know how. Or you walk through a line and it beeps, right? And you thinking that is going to be tackled by the police because they think you're stealing something, right? And this is why, like you and I, individuals, can create that.
You went ahead and went over there.
You're gonna be made.
I'm running over.
All right, so there is not by any means enough space to talk about, like I was a foster kid, right? So I got raised in poverty and
No problem, Dark
abuse
Magician Girl.
and negative relationships. So what did I do when I grew up?
The
I
same
created
thing.
poverty and I created negative relationships, right? And that type of a wound, it's such a cultural taboo that there's not a space to talk about that and the impacts, and then what do we do and where do we go from there? So
So come on back over here. You got me feeling kind of. I was saying I wanted to do it, right? But I think that's important, man.
and everybody in this circle is a wounded healer and also a servant leader, right? So when we see a gap in something that's needed, it's not just us. So
Right.
that's where a tremendous opportunity is to create and be of service to other people like us.
I would say it was dope talking to y'all, like learning the different angles of, because I was kind of like skirmish about that title Killer, but listening to all of the different facets and challenges of it, you know, I really appreciate it. For me, I go back to South Carolina and go back into the Department of Juvenile Justice and work with these young people. This is what I want to take back, right? Like this, I want to take that.
Same boat, man. A lot of preconceived notions we have about people. I might look at you a certain way, and never would have had a clue that there's a commonality or something we can all relate on and learn from.
It's not every day you get to meet someone that's taken a life, or, you know, and for me, it's made me feel alone at times and not be able to be understood by people because of the emotions and stuff that we have to go through.
That was legit. That was a legit episode. That was good. Let's see what the comments said. before we end this one. Do you think killing another human is ever justified? This is far more profound than I was expecting. Same. They definitely got a good title to hook people on. That was a W video. We'll do some more Jubilee ones in the future.